Hi, welcome to part 4 of my video series on central banking in the United States. So, we've gone through the first national bank of the United States, come and gone. We go through the second national bank of the United States, comes and goes in a rather messy fashion, leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. The thing is, a lot of people still recognize that we have this need for some sort of national banking system. So it's not like the need went away. It's not like the idea went away either, but it was on a very, very low boil for a long, long, long time. Okay? So why did we need a central bank? Well, remember, we're looking at a central bank as a bank for banks. And I'll put the word private here in parentheses here. So it's a bank for private banks. But the problem is a central bank is supposed to be a public bank. Public in the sense, not that anybody could go to it, but that it's part of the government. And the private banks are not. Well, this was the issue, is the first national bank was seen as being a creature of the Federalist Party, and the second national bank was seen as being a creature of the Whig Party, and the Democratic Republicans and the Democrats didn't want really any part of that. It's not like they wanted their own bank, and they were really not seeing the need for it. But as technology advanced in the 19th century, we started to have some issues. So people are writing checks. But this is also a period of increasing transportation over longer distances and faster than we had before, so we've got checks going on railroads. So businesses are writing checks in one location and sending them off to some other location through the mail being carried on the railroads. Okay. To a smaller extent, we also have the beginnings of what are called wire transfers. At that time, they didn't even have the telephone, so what we're talking about here is the telegraph lines, but these were the big poles that went down the sides of the railroad tracks. So both railroads had been around since fairly early in the 1800s, but it was really the 1850s when they started to get built a lot. The telegraph was the wonder invention of the middle of the century, invented around 1840, and within 10 years they're stringing these wires all over the country. The problem with either one of these and with checks is this problem that we still have today called kiting. Now, kiting is actually a criminal offense. It's a felony, but you know what? You and I do this all the time. Kiting is where we write a check and put it in the mail with tomorrow's date on it, or a date 2 days out or 3 days out, because we know it's going to take that long for the check to get there. And at the time that we wrote the check, we don't have the money, but we know that we're going to have the money by the time the check actually arrives. So I know in my personal case, I get paid on the 15th of the month, and usually on the night of the 13th, I start writing some checks and put them in the mail on the 14th, and they arrive on the 16th or 17th, and everything is fine. But technically, that's not legal to do. You're not supposed to write a check that you don't actually have the money for right at the time when you write it. But this is a big problem in the 19th century, because what people start thinking as a business plan is, you can be in Boston at one end of the country and do business in San Francisco at the other end of the country. And what you do is you write checks in different locations. So if you're in Boston, you have an account at the bank in San Francisco, and you write a check locally, and that check has to go all the way across the country on the train to San Francisco to be cleared by that bank, and all the way back across the country so that the money can be cleared back in Boston. Those transcontinental trains took about 4 days at that point, and those were for the fast ones, and so you could buy about 10 business days, maybe 15 business days, by kiting across the country. And this was a problem. So the need for a central bank was not going anywhere, but still, nobody could do anything about it. I'll see you in part 5.